basically, the Grace Amadon Collection, we have divided it, we have ordered it this way because some other manuscript could be obtained, but they're in different languages, and we didn't feel that we were going to be able to translate them. So what we have here of material is not the complete Grace Amadon Collection, but it's the collection that we wanted to see the most material from. So the first part, the Grace Amadon Collection, is basically presenting the problem of the 23 of September compared to October 22nd. The second part, which I have all, if you want to, I can even read a bit of the letter of contents, the table of contents. For example, the first part is ancient Jewish calendation. This was a study that was presented in 1942 from the Journal of Biblical Literature. And we have ancient Jewish calendation construction 2, ancient Jewish calendar construction 1, Mosaic calendar, Ezekiel calendar, and then some assorted paper on how the Millerite chose October 22nd, the courageous action of the Millerite on the Jewish calendar problem. And then it goes on with what is the year 1844, and they're asking if it was an embolismic year, and I'm sure these terms are very new for you. An embolismic year is a year lunar system based, lunisolar system based on 13 months. And that occurs, it's a natural phenomenon that occurs about every 2 to 3 years in time. So it is not something unknown, it's just something we're not familiar with. And of course, the whole study continues with many, many references. And as you can see, I have done some reference myself so I could remember them. And then the second part is letter from Andreessen, Froome, and other astronomers. They were quite involved actually with the US Naval Observatory to do this study. So they do present here a research paper on the ancient Jewish beginning of the year, when the Jewish year started, chronological outlines, the Jewish regnal year. Then they go on into Jewish and Babylonian timekeeping in the 6th century BC. Then they have the early and the latter reign. They treat of many, many subjects, a beautiful manuscript to have and study. And if you can obtain them, they're quite expensive. We spend a lot of money onto this. I would say we invested money. But this whole series, as I said, if I was to go on, this is a whole discussion on part 3. By the way, as I said, these, we have divided them that way. When you order them, they come in thousands and thousands of paper, and they came in files. So we decided to have them attached like this so that they don't get confused and mixed up. For example, this part here, which I call 3B, is on the lunar calendar and on the crucifixion date. And then this part here, the Grace Amadon Collection again, talks about the table of content is mainly a study of the Old Testament synchronism, the flood calendar. This is a fabulous study. Grace Amadon did that. By the way, I can give you an idea of who Grace Amadon is. It's kind of difficult to understand why they call it the Grace Amadon Collection, because it kind of make you believe that she wrote the whole collection, but this is not so. Grace Amadon was part of this committee in the 1938-39 era. She was invited to be a participant in that committee because she was quite knowledgeable. Grace Amadon, her name was Grace Edith Amadon. She was born in 1872 and died in 1945. She received her education at Battle Creek College, where she learned Greek and Latin, so which means she would have known Sister White, 1872. She was also proficient in music. In 1893, Miss Amadon was invited by the mission board to go to Cape Town, South Africa to teach Greek, Latin, mathematics, and music at the Claremont Union College. After returning from the mission field in about 1899, Miss Amadon was in charge of the Battle Creek Church School for 2 or 3 years. Between 1903 and 1912, she lived in Chicago, where she served as a bacteriologist and taught pathology and other science subjects in Chicago College. After spending more than 20 years caring for elderly parents, Miss Amadon was invited by the General Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to join a specially formed research committee in January of 1939. So the committee was formed in 1938, but she joined in January 39. Miss Grace Amadon made a distinct contribution to astronomical science by confirming the validity of the time prophecies in the Bible. She made contact with associate astronomer at the United States Naval Observatory, and several of her articles were accepted for publication by scholarly journals. So I believe Miss Amadon has a lot of credential, and we can trust some of her presentation here, along with other of the people that were asked to participate in that committee. Now, a next part here is very difficult to read because a lot of it is written by hand. And here we have letters here again from Elder Wirtz, who criticized the reports, and he gives his opinion, and it's quite fascinating because they have included everything in there of what was going on in that era and how it came about to exist. This part of the committee here that's very fascinating is some of the last part, 4 and 5. And again, the table of content is basically studies on the leap year, the Jewish calendar in the 5th century, a lot of study on the year of the crucifixion, preparation for the Passover, preparation for the Sabbath, the calendar, especially as related to the 10th day of the 7th month in 1844, on what day of the week was Christ crucified, the Jewish calendar, the sign of the prophet Jonas, and many, many more information. As you can see, they are large manuscript. And I believe this will give you faith that the study ahead, I will be referring to these, and I will be reading from these manuscripts, and hopefully you can see the value of them. The question that I've been asked is why anybody or nobody has ever heard about this collection. Well, let me finish this one here. The last manuscript is fantastic. It's a flood calendar study, a flood chronicle study, and it gives you the related date of the flood. If you read the flood in Genesis 6, 7, 8, you will see there is a lot of dates there. It says, for example, in chapter 7, where Noah entered into the ark, and on the 17th day of the 2nd month of the 600 years of Noah's, and then it says about the rain and when they were in the ark and when they came out. They actually came out on the 601 year, chapter 8 will tell you that, of the 22nd of the 2nd month. So they were over 1 year in the ark. Many people think the ark story is only for about 40 days plus. 40 days was the time of the rain, but they stayed over a year in the ark. So here is a very fascinating study, and of course there is Daniel and Revelation study into it. So my point is that these people, why did they do that study and came up with so much manuscript? And then in 1939, the collection was put into the archives, and we were told when we ordered it in 2007, as we found it on the internet, and on the internet, keep in mind, there is only titles, there is no material, and it gives you only the title of the collection.